Pause for a moment and take a deep breath. Before you scroll past this message, before you dismiss what I'm about to tell you as wishful thinking or coincidence, I need you to understand something profound. You did not arrive here by accident. The algorithm did not randomly place this video in your path. There is an invisible intelligence orchestrating events in your life. And this moment, right now as you read these words, is a confirmation of something your soul already knows, but your mind has been afraid to believe. Something monumental has shifted in the energetic field between you and the person who has occupied so much space in your consciousness. While you have been wrestling with doubt, questioning whether you imagined the depth of your connection, wondering if you are foolish to hold on to hope, something decisive has occurred in the realm you cannot see with your physical eyes. This person has recognized their mistake, not as a vague feeling or passing thought, but as a full-bodied awakening that has shattered the defenses they built around their heart. The realization has moved through them like an earthquake, restructuring everything they believed about themselves, about you, about what they walked away from. I know you have felt strange disturbances in your own energy field recently, moments when their presence seemed closer than it has been in weeks or months, sudden waves of emotion that arrived without logical cause, dreams so vivid they left you disoriented upon waking. These are not symptoms of your imagination working overtime. These are the energetic reverberations of their awakening, reaching across the invisible channel that connects your consciousness to theirs. The completion you have been waiting for has already occurred on the spiritual plane. What remains is simply the time lag between inner realization and outer manifestation, and that gap is closing rapidly. Let me speak directly to what you have been living through, because I know the particular kind of exhaustion that comes from loving someone who seemed unable or unwilling to fully receive that love. You have spent countless hours replaying the timeline of your connection, searching for the moment when everything changed, trying to understand what you could have done differently to prevent the distance that opened between you. There were nights when the silence felt unbearable, when you questioned your own worth and wondered why you were never quite enough to make them stay fully present. You have experienced the unique pain of feeling someone's soul touching yours in moments of profound intimacy, only to watch them retreat behind walls of fear and self-protection shortly after. The inconsistency has been maddening. The way they could look at you with such depth one day and treat you like a stranger the next. You may have tried everything your rational mind could conceive to bridge the gap, being more understanding, giving them space, communicating your feelings with vulnerability, even attempting to move on and redirect your attention elsewhere. Yet nothing seemed to create lasting change. The connection persisted in a state of suspended animation, neither fully alive nor completely dead, trapped in an exhausting limbo that drained your hope while refusing to release you. This confusion has had a physical cost. The tension has lived in your body as tightness in your chest, disruption of your sleep patterns, loss of appetite to compulsive eating, an inability to fully focus on the tasks and relationships that once brought you joy. You have felt like a ghost in your own life, going through the motions, while a significant portion of your consciousness remained tethered to someone who seemed to occupy a completely different emotional reality than you. But here is what I need you to understand. Your intuition that this connection was real and significant was never wrong. Depth you felt was not one-sided, even when it appeared that way. The mistake was theirs, not yours. If you are ready to understand what has changed and why their awakening is complete, write in the comments, "I trust the invisible shift." To comprehend what has actually occurred in the consciousness of this person, we must first understand a fundamental principle that Carl Jung spent his lifetime studying: the reality of the unconscious mind and its power to direct human behavior in ways that contradict conscious intentions. Jung taught that beneath the surface of our everyday awareness lies a vast realm of unconscious content, memories, fears, wounds, and protective mechanisms that we cannot access through ordinary thinking. This unconscious material does not simply sit dormant. It actively shapes our perceptions, our choices, our patterns of attraction and avoidance. And most importantly, it can cause us to run from exactly what our soul most needs. When someone walks away from a genuine connection, when they create distance, despite clear evidence of profound compatibility and mutual recognition, they are almost never responding to the reality of who you are. They are responding to an invisible threat that exists only in the landscape of their unconscious mind, a threat born from old wounds that have nothing to do with you. Perhaps in their childhood, they learn that opening their heart fully led to abandonment or betrayal. Perhaps in past relationships, vulnerability became a weapon used against them. Perhaps they internalized a belief that they were fundamentally unlovable or incapable of sustaining intimacy. These unconscious convictions do not operate through logical reasoning. They function as survival mechanisms, triggering defensive responses whenever the psyche perceives a situation that resembles past pain. When this person encountered the depth of connection available with you, their unconscious mind interpreted it as danger. The very intensity that your soul recognized as home, their wounded psyche perceived as threat. So they did what trauma-informed nervous systems do. They created distance, built walls, convinced themselves through elaborate rationalization that leaving was the wise choice. But here is what changes everything. The unconscious cannot maintain its distortions indefinitely when confronted with persistent truth. Over time, especially in the absence of the person who triggered the defensive response, the fog begins to clear. The rational justifications that seemed so convincing in the moment of retreat start to sound hollow. The peace they expected to find in distance transforms into an ache that will not subside. This is the beginning of what Jung called the integration process, the moment when unconscious material rises into conscious awareness, when the protective mechanisms that served them in the past are finally recognized as obstacles to what they genuinely want in the present. Your absence, whether chosen by you or enforced by their withdrawal, created the necessary space for this integration to occur. Without your presence to trigger their defenses, they were finally able to see clearly. And what they saw shattered the false narrative they had constructed. They recognized with a clarity that cannot be unfelt once experienced that their mistake was not in getting too close to you. It was in running away. Understanding the precise mechanism of this awakening will help you recognize why it feels so different from the intermittent moments of clarity they may have experienced before. This is not another temporary softening that will evaporate when their fear resurfaces. This is structural collapse of the defensive system itself. The process unfolds in stages, though they may not consciously recognize the progression as it occurs. First comes the uncomfortable realization that the peace they expected from distance has not materialized. They told themselves, and perhaps told you, that they needed space to find clarity, to focus on themselves, to heal old wounds. They believed that your presence was the source of their inner turmoil, and that removing themselves from the intensity of your connection would restore their equilibrium. But the opposite occurred. In your absence, the turmoil intensified. The parts of themselves that felt alive in your presence went dormant again. the version of themselves that could imagine a different future, a future not dictated by fear and protective patterns, began to fade back into the gray monotony of their defended existence. This creates what psychologists call cognitive dissonance, the mental and emotional distress that arises when reality contradicts our beliefs. They believed distance would bring relief, but instead it brought a deeper ache. They believed you were the problem, but without you, the emptiness only grew more pronounced. This dissonance is deeply uncomfortable, and the psyche will work hard to resolve it. For many people, the first attempt at resolution is to double down on the original narrative. I made the right choice. I just need more time. This feeling will pass. They may seek distraction in work, new relationships, travel, substances, anything to avoid sitting with the growing awareness that they abandoned something irreplaceable. But Carl Jung understood that the soul has its own intelligence, its own agenda that cannot be permanently overridden by the ego's defenses. He wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." The unconscious mind of this person has been working beneath the surface of their awareness, compiling evidence that contradicts their defensive narrative. Every moment of joy you shared together, now seen through the lens of loss. Every conversation that revealed depth of understanding, now conspicuous in its absence. Every quality you possessed that called to something dormant in their soul, now painfully obvious in contrast to what they encounter in their current reality. The unconscious has been building an irrefutable case, and when the weight of evidence reaches critical mass, the conscious mind can no longer maintain its denial. This is the moment of awakening, not a gentle realization, but an urgent recognition. The mistake becomes undeniable. The defenses that once seemed like wisdom now reveal themselves as fear. The sacrifice they thought was necessary now appears as self-betrayal. And most significantly, the image they had constructed of you as someone they could afford to lose shatters completely, replaced by the truth your soul has known all along: you are irreplaceable. This awakening is complete in the sense that they can no longer unknow what they now know. The unconscious material has surfaced, the integration has occurred. They cannot return to the comfortable delusion that leaving you was the right choice, because every fiber of their being now screams the opposite truth. What remains is the question of whether they possess the courage to act on this awakening. And here, the next phase of the process begins. Now I want to give you the concrete signs that confirm this awakening has indeed occurred. Because your rational mind needs tangible evidence to trust what your intuition already knows.
Pay attention to whether you have noticed any of these shifts in recent days or weeks. Sign 1. Sudden increase in indirect contact attempts.
You may have noticed a surge in behaviors that fall just short of direct communication. They view your social media stories consistently, but without engaging, they react to old posts rather than recent ones. Mutual friends mention that your name keeps appearing in their conversations. These indirect approaches signal an internal struggle. They want to reconnect but fear rejection, or they are still building the courage to be fully vulnerable about their realization. Sign 2. Visible changes in their life direction. Through the inevitable overlap of social circles or public platforms, you might observe that they have made significant changes that seem to reflect values or directions you once discussed, ending relationships or situations they previously defended, pursuing interests that align with paths you suggested, relocating or making career shifts that move them closer to a life you described as meaningful. These are not coincidences. When someone awakens to their mistake, they often begin unconsciously restructuring their external reality to align with the vision they rejected when they were with you. Sign 3. Energetic presence in your dreams and meditations. If you have experienced vivid dreams of reconciliation or if during meditation their energy feels particularly present and contrite, these are not merely wishful projections of your subconscious. Jung understood that dreams and altered states of consciousness provide access to the collective unconscious, where individual minds are not as separate as they appear in waking reality. Their awakening is occurring on this shared psychic level before it manifests in physical action, and your consciousness is receiving accurate information about their internal state. Sign 4. Synchronicities intensifying around them. You keep encountering reminders of them in increasingly improbable ways. Their favorite song plays in unexpected places. You randomly meet someone with their name at a significant moment. Objects or symbols associated with your time together appear with unusual frequency. These synchronicities are not random. Jung described synchronicity as meaningful coincidence, events connected not by causation but by significance. The intensification of these experiences indicates that the energetic field surrounding your connection is becoming active again, preparing for physical reunion. Sign 5. Your own inner knowing, perhaps the most reliable sign, is a shift in your own energetic state. Where there was once desperate hoping, there is now calm certainty. Where anxiety about the outcome once lived, there is now peaceful trust. This is not denial or spiritual bypassing. It is your soul receiving confirmation through the invisible channel that something essential has changed on their end. If you recognize 2 or more of these signs in your experience, write in the comments, "The awakening is confirmed." Now we must address the critical error that most people make at precisely this juncture, a mistake that can disrupt the natural unfolding of what has been set in motion. Understanding this will protect you from sabotaging your own liberation. The mistake is this: interpreting their awakening as permission to resume your old role of pursuer, convincer, or emotional caretaker. When you begin to sense that they have recognized their error, when you notice the signs that their consciousness has shifted, a powerful temptation arises to reach out, to make it easy for them, to offer reassurance that you are still available and willing to forgive. This impulse is understandable. After enduring the pain of their absence and rejection, any indication that they might be returning feels like oxygen to someone who has been holding their breath. Your heart wants to accelerate the process, to spare yourself additional waiting, to provide them with the encouragement you imagine they need to take the final step toward you. But here is the profound truth you must integrate. Their awakening is only complete when they demonstrate it through action that requires courage and vulnerability. If you make their return easy, if you do the emotional labor of rebuilding the bridge they burned, you rob them of the essential growth that this entire experience was meant to catalyze. Think of it this way: someone who has recognized their mistake intellectually but has not yet confronted the fear and ego that caused the mistake in the first place has not truly transformed. They have simply reached a different stage of the same pattern. If you allow them to return without doing the difficult internal work of facing their shadow, the parts of themselves that run from intimacy, that sabotage connection, that choose fear over love, you are guaranteeing that the pattern will repeat. Jung was explicit about this principle. He taught that growth requires us to confront what we most want to avoid, to integrate the rejected parts of ourselves, to stand in the fire of our own transformation rather than seeking rescue from it. This person must walk through that fire alone. They must sit with the discomfort of recognizing that they hurt someone who loved them genuinely, they must wrestle with their fear and choose vulnerability despite not having guarantees of outcome. They must demonstrate through sustained, clear action that they have internalized the lesson. Your job is not to make this easier for them. Your job is to maintain your own center, to honor your own worth, to allow them the space to either rise to meet you at a new level of consciousness or reveal that they are not yet capable of the relationship you deserve. So what do you actually do with this knowledge? How do you navigate this space between their inner awakening and its outer manifestation in a way that honors both your hope and your dignity? The answer lies in a concept Jung called holding the tension of opposites. The ability to simultaneously honor two truths that appear contradictory. You can acknowledge that their awakening is real, while also maintaining that you will not accept anything less than whole, conscious, courageous love. This requires a radical form of spiritual maturity. It means you stop interpreting their awakening as something that happened to you or for you, and instead recognize it as something that happened in them for their own evolution. Whether that evolution ultimately leads them back to you in a form that honors your worth is still being determined by their choices, not by the fact of their realization. Practically, this manifests as continued commitment to your own life, your own growth, your own joy, not as a strategy to attract them back, but as the genuine recognition that your well-being cannot remain on hold for someone else's timeline of readiness. You have already waded through their unconsciousness. You have already held space through their fear and confusion. That season of your life served its purpose, and now you stand at a different threshold. This is the moment to deepen into your own sovereignty. Sovereignty, in the spiritual sense, means that your sense of self, your peace, your wholeness do not depend on external validation or on specific outcomes manifesting in your life. It means you are genuinely okay whether this person finds the courage to return with the consciousness and commitment you deserve, or whether they remain unable to meet you at that level. I want to be clear, this is not about pretending you do not care or forcing yourself to detach from all hope. That would be a form of spiritual bypassing, using spiritual concepts to avoid feeling the genuine emotions of your human heart. You are allowed to hope. You are allowed to want this person to rise to the occasion. You are allowed to grieve if they ultimately do not. But underneath those allowed emotions must be an unshakable foundation. The knowing that you will be okay either way. That your worth is not determined by their recognition of it. That your capacity for deep love is a gift you carry regardless of whether this particular person can receive it. That the universe has not brought you this far only to abandon you in a story without resolution. Whatever form that resolution takes. This shift from I need them to return to I am whole, regardless of what they choose, is the energetic transformation that paradoxically makes you most attractive to conscious love. When you are no longer energetically grasping, when you have released the outcome while remaining open to possibility, you emit a frequency that healthy, awakened love responds to. You become a magnet for what is truly meant for you, whether that is this person evolved and ready or someone new who carries the qualities you deserve without requiring you to wait through their awakening process. The practical work is simple but not easy. Invest in your life with the same attention you previously gave to analyzing their behavior. Say yes to opportunities that expand your world. Cultivate relationships that nourish you. Create beauty and meaning in your daily experience. And when thoughts of them arise, as they will, Acknowledge them with compassion, and then return your attention to the present moment and the life you are actually living. When you truly embody this sovereignty, when your peace genuinely no longer depends on their return, something remarkable occurs in the invisible realm where energetic transactions happen. The entire dynamic undergoes an alchemical transformation. If this person has genuinely awakened, if their recognition of their mistake has moved from intellectual understanding to soul-deep knowing, they will feel your energetic shift. They will sense that the door that was once held open indefinitely is now in your hand, and you are at peace with closing it, if they do not approach with the consciousness and commitment that honors what exists between you. This is not a threat or manipulation, it is simply truth. And truth, when embodied rather than weaponized, has a unique power to catalyze movement in those who are ready to grow. For some, this will be the final catalyst they need. The recognition of their mistake, combined with the awareness that you are no longer waiting in suspended animation, will create the urgency required for them to overcome their remaining fear. They will reach out, not with half measures or ambiguous signals, but with clear, vulnerable, accountable communication. They will acknowledge specifically what they now understand about their behavior. They will take responsibility without defensiveness or excuse. They will demonstrate through sustained action, not just words, that they are prepared to meet you in the kind of conscious, reciprocal connection you have always deserved. And if this occurs, you will know how to respond, not from desperate relief that they finally returned, but from centered discernment about whether their actions match their revelations, whether the transformation is genuine and stable, whether you feel truly seen and valued rather than merely chosen because other options proved unsatisfying. But we must also honor the other possibility, that despite their awakening, despite their recognition of their mistake, they may not possess the courage to act on it. Fear is powerful, and not everyone who sees their truth finds the strength to live it. Some will retreat back into the familiar comfort of their defended patterns, convincing themselves once again that safety lies in emotional distance. If this occurs, your sovereignty ensures that you do not collapse. You grieve what could have been, yes. You honor the genuine love you carried, certainly. But you do not interpret their inability to rise to the occasion as evidence of your unworthiness. You understand that their limitation is about them, not you. And you remain open, not to this person specifically, but to love itself, to the possibility that someone exists who carries both the depth to recognize your value and the courage to honor it through committed action. As we close this transmission, I want you to place your hand on your heart and feel the truth of what has been shared here resonating in your body beyond the realm of thought. Their awakening is complete. The recognition has occurred. What happens next is being determined in this very moment, not by their choices alone, but by how firmly you stand in your own worth, how deeply you trust that you are deserving of love that does not require you to shrink, wait indefinitely, or prove your value. If everything we have explored resonates in the core of your being, if you feel the energetic confirmation that yes, something has fundamentally shifted, then anchor this knowing by making a declaration. Write in the comments, "I am worthy of conscious love." This is not merely engagement for the algorithm, though yes, it helps this message reach others who need it. This is your energetic signature, your commitment to yourself, your refusal to settle for anything less than what your soul knows it deserves. Subscribe to this channel if you are committed to understanding the invisible dynamics of connection to honoring both mystical truth and psychological wisdom, to choosing yourself even when hope whispers that love might still be possible. In the next video, I will reveal what happens when their awakening translates into action. How to recognize genuine transformation versus temporary clarity, and how to respond from your power rather than your wound. Until then, remember, their recognition of their mistake is not your redemption. You were never the mistake. Stand in that truth and watch how reality reorganizes itself around your unshakable knowing.